We will hunt you down and make you pay.
President Joe Biden has now responded to the attacks at Kabul airport in Afghanistan, attacks that killed at least a dozen U.S. service members and at least 60 Afghans, with, of course, many more wounded. And his response here is sort of mixed. So I'm going to play a part of his speech for you, and then I will dig into it.
To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. This is why, from the outset, I've repeatedly said this mission was extraordinarily dangerous, and why I've been so determined to limit the duration of this mission. As General McKenzie said, this is why our mission was designed, this is the way it was designed to operate. Operating under severe stress and attack. We've known that from the beginning. And as I've been in constant contact with our senior military leaders, and I mean constant, round the clock, and our commanders on the ground and throughout the day, they made it clear that we can and we must complete this mission, and we will. And that's what I've ordered them to do. We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in the moment of our choosing. Here's what you need to know. These ISIS terrorists will not win. We will rescue the Americans in there. We will get our Afghan allies out, and our mission will go on. America will not be intimidated.
All right. So first, just to be clear here, once again, as Biden says there, these attacks were by ISIS, not the Taliban. So the Taliban taking over Afghanistan, that is not why these attacks happened. These were planned and executed by ISIS. Now, as I said in my first video covering these attacks, the war hawks will use this as an excuse to try and stay in Afghanistan, try and put pressure on Biden through the media, through lawmakers doing that, putting that pressure on. But thankfully, it looks like Biden has really only given them a partial win, at least for the time being. As Biden here clearly is sticking to pulling out of Afghanistan on the same timeline. But at the same time, he is calling for strikes on ISIS facilities in Afghanistan, which doesn't really sound like pulling out to me, and often is used as an excuse to stay in and continue these sorts of actions. I mean, he says here, we will not, let me bring this up. The quote, we will not forgive, we will not forget, we will hunt you down and make you pay. How does that logic, that line differ from what started the war to begin with? We will hunt you down and make you pay. So, hopefully, whatever attacks he's planning here on ISIS facilities, that they are going to be extremely limited and won't result in more civilian deaths as U.S. drone strikes normally do. But we're going to have to wait and see on that. At the same time, he is sticking to pulling out of Afghanistan, not leaving ground troops there, which, thank God he's doing that. Thank God he is sticking to the scripts, or sticking to the plan, and pulling out of the country. But I want to go through some reactions here, because there's a lot of context that I think is lacking in a lot of the mainstream coverage. And it's actually, surprisingly, some mainstream anchors here are the ones that are making these points. So Lawrence O'Donnell here tweeted out, when a rocket attack killed 2 Marines at the airport during our evacuation from Vietnam, the Republican president said nothing publicly and ordered the evacuation speeded up and switched from planes to helicopters. So look at the difference from the 70s to today. You have Joe Biden still pulling out of Afghanistan, but having to feel the need here to respond with force because of this attack. Yet back in the 70s with a Republican president, they sped up the process when a very similar event happened there. Next tweet here, Ryan Grimm. This was a few days ago, but I think it's important to have this context, because I've been criticizing Joe Biden. The one area I've been criticizing him during this whole pulling out of Afghanistan, is that I felt he should have tried to get these people out a lot sooner. But there's a great point here from Ryan Grimm. The U.S. has rapidly evacuated 70,700 people in 10 days. Now, assume we started that when the mainstream media says they wanted us to, with the Afghan government still in power. Within days of the signal of our retreat, they'd have fled and collapsed. Result would be chaos. Chaos was unavoidable. I think this is correct. Chaos was unavoidable. If they left earlier, it would have just extended the time that allowed these sorts of attacks to happen. So and Biden mentions it there in his speech as well, by limiting the amount of time that they are using to flee the country, they are limiting the ability for more attacks like this to happen. So there's actually nothing Biden could have done. He did everything he could have done in pulling out of Afghanistan, and I mean, the fact that they've evacuated 70,000 is actually incredible in the short time that they've been doing this. Next thing here, Mehdi Hassan tweeting out, worth reminding folks that ISIS wouldn't exist today if George Bush and Tony Blair hadn't invaded Iraq in 2003. ISIS in Afghanistan didn't even exist until 2014, 2015. But hey, it's easier to have a short memory or no memory at all and blame everything on the withdrawal. This is such a great point. This is also a great reminder of why a continued U.S. presence wouldn't have solved anything. The U.S. presence overseas is what led to the situation they are now in and led to this attack that happened today. So staying there any longer is not going to solve the problem. It will only make things worse. This tweet here from Chris Hayes. The war in Afghanistan started with us partnering with Iran, specifically Soleimani, to strike the Taliban, and will end with us partnering with the Taliban to strike ISIS, who just a few short years ago, we were also partnering with Soleimani to destroy. So, yeah, just showing you how a lot of this is just circular and again, continued U.S. presence going to that same point is not going to solve the problem here. Last tweet, and this goes to the media, which you know I'm a huge fan of. Matt Negrin here, tweeting out, what did Biden do wrong? Let's bring in our panel. 6 ex-generals who sit on the boards of military contractors, 3 Trump officials whose only prior experience was writing Hillary for prison in YouTube comments, and Mike Flynn Jr.'s Fortnite team. Gentlemen, thank you for your unfreaking believable. This is what the mainstream press is doing right now. Bringing in a bunch of clowns, people that led the country into war years ago, to the result of nothing except for larger profits for defense contractors. And yeah, this is the result, is you're having these clowns on the air pushing out their propaganda. And still, I'm seeing polls today showing that the majority of Americans still support pulling out of Afghanistan, as they should, despite the amount of mainstream propaganda that's being pushed out there, claiming or trying to say that Joe Biden should stay in the country. So just be aware of the kind of propaganda going out there. And it all goes back to what has been accomplished over 20 years. Nothing. Bin Laden wasn't even in Afghanistan. The only result of these 20 years is a lot of money for defense contractors. That's it.